Good morning, afternoon, evening, good day, ladies, gentlemen. Scratch out whatever you don't want from that list. This is Dust War Journals episode 8. This is a podcast all about the miniatures war game Dust 1947, and my name is Johannes, also known as Frankie. And with me, as usual, is
Magnus, known as Magoff or Magwiz on the forums.
And Ludwig Ludda.
We have quite a lot to talk about today. It's been quite a busy month for us, actually. We have, if you start off with the news, there's been not that much news from the studio this month, but there are some quite tidbits that are interesting. When it comes to new units, we have the new Packwagon 258. This is basically the Hanomag, which we've seen before, but with the Pack 40 gun. It's the exact same gun that's on the RSO pack. And if you compare the stats on these two units, they're very, very similar. Yeah. It's almost the exact same. It's the same point cost. It's the same weapon lines almost. There are some slight differences. Of course, the pack wagon doesn't have airdrop. It's not. It's a block unit. It's not a Luftwaffe unit. I think it's a little bit faster. I think it moves to 5 instead of to 4, if I remember correctly. So there's very comparable units. Yeah. And of course, this is premium only, but it's very possible to build one yourself with the Hanomag model kit and just add on the pack gun. So it's an interesting unit. I think what most people are probably going to be more interested in is the re-release of the Blackhawk for the Allies, because I've seen that on the Facebook, so people say finally, because I think actually this is the first time ever that the Blackhawk's been available to purchase by its own. I think it's only been in
it was in the old in the old revised core set.
Yeah,
that's the only way you could get hold of it.
So we'll probably see a lot more Blackhawks.
Hopefully, yeah. The Blackhawks is a very good unit, very price worthy. So it's nice to see it coming back on the battlefields.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see more of those light allied walkers fairly soon.
Yes.
And if you only could have gotten hold of the old starter set, that wouldn't have been a problem, because you got all that other goodies in that starter set and a lot of good units in that one. So hopefully all the others will also be coming separately.
Yeah, we hope so. From what we've heard, that is their kind of intention, that everything that's been released before will be re-released at some point. We have no idea what the kind of plans are for that. But here we see a clear example that they are committed to bringing all the old units being available.
Sorry interrupting you there, but I'm also interested if this could mean that perhaps the Allied would see some other versions of Blackhawks, because thinking of now that the Luftwaffe is getting all their Heinrich Hounds and all that shit with all the different variations, why not get other weapon mountings on the Blackhawk? It's a super model, and it's good weaponry on it, but
phaser version, perhaps?
Yeah, why not a phaser version? That would be great. Something, perhaps anti-air, I would love. A quick mobile unit that could just...
I agree. The Blackhawk is a really nice looking model. So with a few more different kind of weaponry, it would be really nice.
And that's something that I kind of miss at this point of the game, that kind of aesthetic from the Allies. It's kind of specific with the Pounders, the Blackhawks. We don't really see that much of those units on the table at the moment. So it would be very nice to kind of have a throwback to that and make those units exciting and relevant again. I would love that.
Yeah, and now that they reprinted, the Blackhawk, it ought to, without having any knowledge on it, be quite cheap for them to just do a sprue, perhaps, for the weapons, and then still sell a completely new walker. I'm just feeling that could be not that bad a deal for the studio, making the phaser version or the anti-air or
and if it's going to be specific, like faction versions of it, then we might see some for the Desert Scorpions, which we know are coming soon.
Yeah, that would be nice as well. Perhaps you could, I don't know if you aesthetically could make it open topped or something.
Could be.
Trying to because I know I was going at it a little bit with a model knife at one part, but then I stopped because I was not quite sure what I wanted to do. I just had the urge. I'm just gonna, because I have two, and one of them I'm perhaps gonna just.
I don't know. You still have those open topped. I mean the Wildfire and the Honey. You already have those kinds. So I think the Blackhawk enclosed compartment there is.
It should be enclosed. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bit different kind.
But yeah, because then it has that kind of chunky aesthetic that I want from the Allies.
And the Wildfire is like the motorcycle, more like
it's more sleek. It's
yeah.
It kind of. I always think of it like a World War II version of the speeder bikes from Star Wars.
Yeah, that's a good likeness. What's the word I was looking for? Yeah. But then the Honey, where has that gone? This is I'm sorry, I'm off topic here, but just missing units. We see the Wildfire perhaps.
Yeah, but
that's the thing. The Wildfire is part of the USMC faction. The Honey is block. I think that's one of the main reasons we don't see it as much, unfortunately.
But it's so cheap.
It is.
Yeah, but the Wildfire, you can get it in one of the starters.
Yeah.
The Honey is just in one of the old boxes, so it's really difficult to get hold of.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's a big part of the problem with many of these vehicles, that it's so difficult to get hold of them. So this is a good start with the Blackhawk to be able to get it again.
And just a link on to, because now the new Star Wars films are so popular, and they are like Star Wars walkers, all those three, Wildfire, Honey and Blackhawk.
They kind of are.
Now it's the time to re-release even the Honey, because I think people could buy it and use it in other games as well. Sorry, going off topic a bit, but
yeah, the big news for this month has definitely been the new rules documents that were posted a few weeks ago. There's 4 new documents. There's an FAQ, there's a rules errata document, there's updated tournament rules, and there's a new document for scenery. We're going to go through all of these, not in super detail, but just touch on some of the interesting stuff in it. So the FAQ, first off, we have some more changes and kind of clarifications on how artillery works. That's something that we've been using that quite a lot, and there's always been quite a few questions, and we have a few answers to some of these questions now. You can fire on an empty square with artillery, for example, and that has been a point of contention between some of our players. And how you define which of the adjacent squares you're going to hit, that's also different.
Yes.
Why don't you just run through those rules for the listeners who hasn't dug into the rules as well?
Yeah, basically you hit 3 additional squares, so you're going to hit an area of 2 by 2 squares. This is all in-gridded, of course. And you trace, the new clarification of the new rules is that you trace line of sight from the original target square. And if you have line of sight, then you can attack that square as well. If there is a corner, then you get cover for that unit, and that's a very big difference. Also, another clarification is that if you hit like a floor in a building, then only that level is hit, which has also been a question.
Yeah, it's basically 2-dimensional in that sense. You can't hit 3-dimensional with the artillery, which is good. It simplifies a lot of things.
Yeah, and I kind of like this whole corner cover thing. I think it's thematic, and it also solves a lot of problems. The thing that you have to have line of sight to the additional square from the original target square, because you could interpret the original rules that you could hit like through walls in buildings and such. Yeah. You can't do that anymore, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Wasn't it also so that you couldn't land inside a building nowadays?
Yeah.
There's no. You have to have a dot also in the square.
Yeah, you have to have a dot on the square.
You can't just fire on a.
That's true. You can't fire on pillars or other such.
And that is also good, I think. I think this. I mean, I love that the artillery is effective. It's powerful, because I mean in V2 it wasn't used at all, but now it's an active force in games. But at some times it was just almost unplayable, and it was so cheap. Even if you just had 3 like mortar guys for 21 points, they could make almost any army useless, and they can still just hide away and almost not be
I think
targeted. But
this clarification seems like a good like middle ground. I think. Yeah. It basically, the only question I have now is how does this work with smoke? Like if the target unit is in smoke, or if you are shooting your artillery onto 4 squares and all of those have smoke but nothing else.
Yeah, if it's the line of sight and you can't draw diagonally through smoke.
Do the units have cover? Do they have... I don't know. How does this work? Since you're supposed to trace line of sight between the dots.
One part would say you can't, if the grenade hits in one of the smoke squares, it's not going to hit any of the others because it's blocked by the smoke. If you go by just the line of sight thing,
well, it should hit the 2 adjacent, but it would not hit the one diagonally. You still have line of sight between the 2 adjacent squares, but not the one diagonally.
For me, that kind of just feels weird.
It does.
I would think that smoke doesn't really do anything. It shouldn't do too much if you are hit by artillery.
No, it should be an exception.
Yeah, the smoke should really not have any impact on artillery, except for the initial target square.
Yeah.
The smoke can hide squares, so you can't pick them as your initial square, but it shouldn't really affect any of the target units. You can't really hide from artillery just by being in smoke. You should be behind something solid, like a wall or whatever.
Another point, reactive attacks has had a bit of a clarification because the original rules could be interpreted to mean that you have to roll for the reactive attack when the unit that's attacking you starts its activation.
Mm-hmm.
And then that means that you needed to have the range for the reactive attack before they actually move.
Yeah,
that's been clarified. That you do check for range after the attacking unit has made its first activation.
That's why I don't read the rules, because that's what to me is just obvious. So I don't understand how do you get to that conclusion? Probably you can, and if you read the rules like a fucking, Satan reads the Bible or something like. But come on, it's been, and of course I've been playing since 1.0, so I know how the rule works. It's just okay. Sorry, I'm just sometimes I get tired.
The rules text is kind of ambiguous. Like you say, those of us that've been playing for a long time, we didn't really see this coming, basically.
No, definitely.
I saw some discussion started about this, and I was thinking, how can people come to this conclusion? And then I read the rules really word by word, and I say, well, that's kind of what the rule book says, actually. So this is a good.
I think that is a problem. Well, not a problem in that case, but it is a symptom of the openness of the studio. I would say, because they kind of invited us in to proofread and just get in and dig into the new version of the rules. And that means that a lot of people are reading the rules much more thoroughly than before.
Yeah, but that's
and then we find all these kind of niggling things that could be misinterpreted. I think that's a part of the issue.
Yeah, maybe, but as long as it's clear and everyone knows how it works, then it's fine. And
I think that's the most important part. Whatever the rules say, if you and your opponent agrees how you should play, then you play like that. That's fine.
Yeah,
I have no problem with that.
It's a fucking game, man.
Yeah.
So we just yeah. And if you want those kind of nitpicking rules, just when you bend it inside out, go play 40k or something other shit game. I don't give a fuck. I don't mean, stay out of my universe.
You're in a good mood today.
Yeah, I am. Well, people are fuckos, so that's just the point. Me too, but okay, get on with it.
Yeah, we also had a new definition for trees. There are now small trees and large trees. In the original rules, all trees were height 2. Now there can be small trees of height 1. that's not a big difference.
Actually, in the original rules, it doesn't really say anything about the height
no,
of them.
now he's
So
nitpicking. He's reading the rules again. You gotta shut him down. You gotta shut him down. Come on.
That's one of the questions I sent to the studio to Olivier, and the first answer there was that all trees are considered range 2 high. But now you have the option to use like small trees or large trees. So
you can have bushes and...
yeah, but what the fuck? If you're playing, you want to play in what are called the pine woods or something, you have level 3, have level 4, have a genetic mutation, fucking have level 3, 10 trees. If you want it, do it, play.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's good that it's...
And just to kind of put a cap on this, I think it's a good thing to define as much as possible in the rules, because then people are allowed to just ignore it if they want to.
Oh yeah.
But it's a good thing to have a baseline. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my point. Last point about the FAQ, we have more clearly defined recs, and that's also a very good thing, I think, because that's been a thing that's again and again comes out. Can my guy stand in this wreck because it was your guys? It still works as a vehicle. Can my guys move through that because it's a wreck from your vehicle and stuff like that? So that's more clearly defined. I like that. The clarification is no vehicles can move through wrecks. All infantry can move through all wrecks. I think that's a good thing. That also means less problem for infantry to move around. That vehicles shouldn't move through, I think that's great. That works well, and that can be a problem for you as well if you don't think about it. Don't think about the kind of airdrop list I played against you, Ludwig, a few weeks ago, and there were kind of just wrecks all over the place. My walkers couldn't get through. So, yeah.
Although, one thing, I don't know if it was in the FAQ, but to me at least it was clarified during our Nordic tournament. We're coming to that, of course, later. But that you couldn't put out the fire on a wreck if it was burning, if the vehicle. And I know Oliver had the reasoning behind this, that it's war, you don't have time and all of that shit, which is fine. But when we have mechanics and mechanical vehicles, or perhaps this is just me and nobody else, but shouldn't you have even walkers that perhaps, or mechanical vehicles that could put out fires? Wouldn't that be nice to...
Well, maybe you can remove the wreck itself.
Yeah, I know, but if I want the wreck there, I want it as cover. It's perfectly placed. The only problem I have with it is it's on fire. So I'm thinking I could have some sort of walker that could have a fire extinguisher. And also, since I was all delirious when we were talking about the hopefully soon coming extra gadgets for your walkers, your platoon. I mean the extra equipment cards. Why not have fire extinguishers? I would pay 1 point for one walker as a repair walker to have that, so I could just.
Yeah, it's a nice idea.
And
send this over to Olivier.
Yeah, and as a little bonus use for it, if the vehicle that's carrying the fire extinguisher catches fire, it can use it on itself.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I've heard something like improvise, adapt, overcome something. I don't know if you heard that before. I mean, that's what I want to do with my army. I see something and I work at it.
Yeah, sounds like a nice idea actually, but I'm all for the baseline here that it's war, people are shooting at you, so you don't really have time run around.
No, but you look, we now have a special medic, Emma. She has a gun, but her mission as a medic is running around, even if they're shooting at her, trying to heal people.
Yeah.
So why not? You could have had a dedicated person. So your mission is to make sure everything works out on the battlefield. Repair the bridge, put out fires, make our troops be able to work on the battlefield.
Yeah,
so
I see. I don't see why not. I think it's a possibility that it could be there. Yeah. Write the rules, we'll play it.
Right, what's next?
Next document, the rules errata, and there's a lot of stuff in this document. I urge everyone to go read all these documents because we're not going to touch on absolutely everything. I think the thing that we've discussed the most in this new document is the fact that now passengers in an aircraft is not allowed to attack if the aircraft makes a march move.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really big change.
Yeah, huge. Makes the helicopter transport a lot less effective, and those combos discussed earlier about flamethrowers out of helicopters, those will become a lot less effective, and my guess is that we will basically not see them anymore.
Well, they will still be really
contest
good.
Those. I expect to see them in Poland.
It will be easier to shoot down helicopters carrying those guys, definitely, but it won't be that much easier, I think, unless you really focused a lot of your army points on anti-air, because there's not many units in the game that can shoot down a helicopter in one attack.
Definitely not. There's it's only the Königsluter in the German army and the Fliegerfaust.
Yeah.
If you don't do some sick combos or something like that, and you shouldn't need a Panzer Prince to bring down a chopper. I mean, or the other way around. But especially in Poland, when Marek now has gone happily crazy with those 3 maps.
Mm-hmm.
You need to transport your troops quite a lot of places. I think the SSU needs the transport choppers just to be effective. If at least you play a block army or something. Okay, Spetsnaz armies, they fly through the board quickly, and they're quickly halfway through the board, even if it's 3 mats. But I think the choppers, and especially if you play the what is called the frogs, the steel guards. I mean, yeah, and I'm going back on my words here because a few podcasts ago I was not thinking that those Flumbursts frogs were that particularly dangerous, but now I experienced them firsthand in my face, totally annihilating one of my armies in 2 turns. I would like to say that those will still be effective, even if you because you gotta have luck if you bring down a chopper. And the Steel Guard army, I'm sorry, I'm not letting you speak now, Mike.
If you have one unit that is an anti-aircraft unit, it will have a chance to completely destroy a chopper now if it's not moving fast, if the troops, if the passengers in the helicopter are going to fire, you can't march move with the helicopter. Okay, and if the opponent then have one dedicated anti-aircraft unit, it will have a fair chance to either destroy it completely, and if it doesn't, you can probably bring it down with just ordinary machine guns for the rest of the few points. So
I'm not so sure, but we'll see. We'll see how it
the combination of the transport, 9 points, plus the Steel Guard anti-infantry squad, that's a total of 27 points.
Yeah. But the thing is, the Steel Guards, when you shoot out the chopper, eventually turn 2 the quickest you do it. If you only have one anti-air squad or vehicle, it's going to drop in turn 2, and then the Steel Guards just dust themselves off and start, and they stand most likely in the thick of it, and they just gonna go and
we'll see. Maybe I'm proved wrong about this, but I'm fairly sure actually that this combination is not good enough anymore.
You're bold today. You're bold.
We'll see.
I may be proven wrong, absolutely, but I mean, if you shoot the helicopter down, then those will count as activated and they are suppressed and everything. So, to me, it doesn't look that scary anymore.
We'll see. Next up, we have a change that we've already known about for quite some time, and we've used it for quite some time. I'm talking about the flame weapon template for gridded, and the fact that it's no longer used. I think that made a lot of people quite happy, because there were a lot of problems, unfortunately, with how the original rules were worded.
Yeah. I think we tried it like very early on, tried to figure out how is this supposed to work, and we tried some version and then tried some other version, and then basically for ourselves decided that let's just do it how it was done before. because that works. And now that's the official rule, basically. It works as it did before. No templates on the grid. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. You shouldn't need to use any templates when you play on the grid. That's kind of the point of the grid.
Yeah,
exactly. Another change that I'm personally not that big of a fan of, the thing about support weapons. That the new rule says that if you take damage on a support weapon, then you cross out health, and you also cross out that many individual weapons from that support unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely understand kind of the concept behind it. It's the same thing that if all these individual soldiers were standing on their own individual bases. It's the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You remove that guy. The problem with support weapons is that they're all standing on the same base. You can't just remove one guy, and that makes it harder for me visually to just see, oh, I have these weapons left. I have to mark that out on the card, and I don't like to mark my cards. I like to mark things up in a different way. So for me, this creates a lot more bookkeeping. So I'm not that big of a fan of it. But I do understand why the rule is there. So,
but you know what I look forward to? I look forward to when you do your next video. You know, you had your magnetization of the KV-47s. Now you will be magnetizing your support weapon units. And that will be a tutorial which will be up on the Vikings homepage, I guess, fairly soon. And you will have a big like from me after you've done it. So
we'll see about that.
Yeah, easy fix.
Yeah, but that's a possibility to magnetize them, or even I was thinking of actually like removing them from the large base and putting everything on small bases.
That's another way to do it. Yeah, that could be cool.
It doesn't really affect anything, and you don't have to do the bookkeeping on the card if you do that. I don't know, some kind of.
But the problem will then be when you play non-gridded, even if you don't do that so much, I know.
Then you can make like a modular base with a big base with places for the smaller bases on it or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nice.
Something to make it like more visual would be nice. More of what you see is what you get, and to not have to do that bookkeeping of. I don't know. And
it's easier with certain units. I mean, like the mortar units. There are 4 guys, they all have the same weapon. Who cares? It's more important where there's like the mercenary squads where everyone has a different weapon. We have the war dogs. I think that's where the problem came from, the war dogs. Dogs with guns. That's
I've seen that movie. There's no problem. No, but
and talking about wrecks, as we discussed earlier, we now also have Arata that the wrecks on fire. If you move through a wreck that's on fire with an infantry unit, it now counts as it does a normal flame attack against that unit. Because that was really defined before. So that's thematic. I have no problem with that rule at all.
Yeah, I'm just thinking now, can you actually put your infantry unit on a wreck? Yes or no? And if it's on fire, can you stop the movement on the wreck that is on fire?
I'm not getting that question. We talked earlier that you could always move through a wreck and be on a wreck.
Yeah, that's how we've been playing. That's what I thought also. But what now if the wreck is on fire? Can you still
stand in the fire?
Can you still end your movement on the wreck?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, honestly. To me it's like if your vehicle were caught on fire. Every time you activate, you take a hit, a flame hit. So, but then of course it's just me working the solutions here and not thinking about what's in the wording of the rules.
That's just one question that popped up in my head. What would happen, basically? Okay, so you move into and stay on the wreck that is on fire, and you will be hit by a flame. Fine. And next activation, do you do the same again, or at the beginning of the activation, or what happens? I don't know. It's just...
Just to make it similar, I would make it exactly as a vehicle on fire.
Or you can just make it really easy and say that when it's on fire, you can't actually stay on the vehicle on fire. You have to move through it.
Maybe.
Seems kind of not very comfortable to be standing on a vehicle that is on fire.
Of course, it's the extreme measures. It's something you do just because you absolutely have to do it. I'm guessing the commissar is in the square behind with the machine gun and saying, "You stay in the fire,
Not
prove
one
yourself."
step back.
No.
Yeah.
Or, but I'm just hoping now that we can also get the possibility sooner or later. I know this will complicate things, but please, can't I just put this tree on fire? I want to burn the trees. First off, just put them on fire so it's the same effect. Second off, I of course want to level them to make the line of sight. Okay, this is a short space of time we're playing. It's only some seconds, so you can't do this architectural work. I know this, but just one thing I would like to do. I like to burn trees.
There were some kind of rules for that in version 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
We never got
I don't
around
know.
to it.
Maybe we'll see that
Special scenario.
Yeah, maybe we'll see it.
Of course, in a special scenario, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can say it's a drought or something in this area. You can put the trees on fire easily. Of course, the tree just don't start to burn. It's a lot of things depends on it, but it would be just one of those nice things.
All right.
So what's next?
Airborne. We have some more clarifications how that works. I think the most important thing is the specification that the airborne skill cannot be shared between units.
Yeah.
So you can't bring a non-airborne hero with a Fallschirmjäger squad, for instance.
Yeah, it seems logical.
Yeah. So not that much to say about that, but talking about skills, we have a completely new skill, which we don't see on any units so far, which I thought was exciting. And that is Assault Vehicle.
Oh, yeah, right.
And we've been I'm talking to Olivia now at Dust Nordic, and he more or less confirmed that this is a skill for the Desert Scorpions. And what it says basically is that vehicles with the Assault Vehicle skill, if that vehicle has passengers, those passengers can activate after a march move.
And disembark.
And disembark, yes.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. So yeah, the Desert Scorpions are going to be very fast and very mobile.
Yeah, so this is one of those, what's it called, air assault that the SSU have? This is like a similar thing, basically.
It's the same thing, but for ground vehicles, basically. Really exciting.
Yeah.
Also some clarifications about flame bursts, how that works. It's basically like a normal flame attack, that it gives suppression, no saves of any kind. It also only hits one square instead of multiple squares like the flame can do. In gridless, you use a blast template to decide what it hits. So that's basically how flame burst works.
Yeah, but it's just, it's in gridded it's just one square, so you will not be able to hit the squares in between the attacker and the target, if there are any.
So it's basically like a flame mortar or something, yeah. Right, the updated tournament rules. I think there's two major points to talk about here. First of all, the change in limits of vehicles. Because before there was a limit to 2 of each identical vehicle and a total of 2 aircraft. And now both of those limits have increased to 3. And I think that's going to make some people very happy, because that means they can use the Red Ace platoon in tournaments if they wish.
Yeah. And also, it would have been a little bit unsportsmanlike for Marek going to 125 points there, and if he hadn't been able to field more, then you get more flexibility now. So I think it's a good thing. And,
it is.
I can't see the Red Ace platoon dominating in that way. Perhaps 3 transporters could have done it, but now that he regulates the 3 transport choppers,
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It sounds totally fair. I haven't really thought that much about it, actually. We haven't tried it in any tournament yet, since these rules are very new, but it seems fine. And for me, the most important thing is that you can play the Red Ace platoon.
Yeah.
It's a platoon, you should be able to play it in,
So now it's only the Allied Heavy Walker platoon that...
in 100-point army.
Yeah.
Because it's the heavies that don't... the heavy walkers that don't really fit in a faction
Yeah, you needed to go up on 137, or what was the point? Someone had calculated this. I don't know. I don't give a shit.
Another point that was changed for this, an optional, if you play gridless tournaments, you can now use area terrain officially if you want to. And I think that's a huge thing for many gridless players. Because that's basically what you're used to before.
Yeah, we did it anyway.
Yeah.
That's just the rule. Well, of course there's area terrain. Fuck it.
And talking about terrain, we have the final little document that was released, the scenery rules. I think this is my favorite of these four, actually.
Very interesting.
This is really interesting, really fun. It's basically new rules and new skills specifically for scenery, for terrain. And there's also a table with what skills, what rules to be used for all the different official scenery items that you can buy from Dust Studios. So there's a few new stuff here. There's ammo replenish, very simple. Infantry can use one action to replenish their ammo. If a vehicle can use two of their actions to replenish their ammo, so it's a little bit harder. I guess the pilot has to go out and refill fuel. I really like that. We have the follow me skill. That's the same thing as the follow me skill that some heroes have, and that's basically a hero that controls that piece of scenery can use the follow me skill.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a rallying point for your army. I like that as well. Yeah. Hospital, we have the hospital concept huts from before. That basically means that an infantry unit can perform a medic action on itself.
Mm-hmm.
They have the makeshift repair. That's also the basic thing, but for vehicles. And that's the same with ammo replenish. You need to use two actions. So I guess the pilot jumps out, repairs the vehicle with the help of whatever tools are available there, and gets back in. And finally, the most fun one, I think, raw barbecue. And that's the if people. I don't really remember what operation box that was released in. That's basically the three little animals. The
Achilles.
Goat, Achilles Operation Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
The goat, the cow,
and the cow.
There were two cows.
Double cow.
Double cow, right?
Double down on the cows.
And these are basically an infantry unit can eat one of these to heal 1 point of damage.
Mm-hmm.
It is wonderful, and I'm going to run with this on the Swedish Nationals. You're going to see medical hospitals. You're going to see the ammo replenishing. I've already hinted on this at the Facebook. You will see a Tesla wagon that you will be able to take control of and have two squads firing Teslas at the opponents if you're in those squares. There will be, of course, also from Thor Miniatures. I have to mention them because they make so nice terrain. You have the service train. I have one of those, so you'll be able to repair your walkers if you're next to the service train. Mm-hmm. And I have some other things also in the back of my mind that I will have on those gaming boards at the Swedish Nationals. So expect to see this very, very soon. In just a month's time, at least in our community. So
that's great, because I think that's one of the big takeouts from this, that not only with the official scenery, but also that you can build your own specific scenery with specific rules, just to get more variation in your boards. I think that's fantastic. That's really great.
And also it's so good because I think, as at least Magnus and I have discussed this during the years that's gone by, people don't invest in their gaming boards. They do a lot of shit with their, but we've touched on this of course on one of the podcasts as well, but people do a lot of shit with their armies, but they play on whatever, it seems sometimes. So now there's another reason. Invest in your gaming table. It makes a better atmosphere. It gives a
I think these scenery rules are a really good incentive for people to put a little bit more effort and thought into their boards.
Yeah.
And now they have like really concrete rules for what to do and make it more interesting. And this is actually, I've started planning on a future board. I have no idea when I can put it to reality, but I thought about a few of these, like very similar. I need to have some of these elements and some of these, and then Dust Studio drops these scenery rules. It's perfect for me, so now I can really start planning on which elements to include there.
Yeah, that's great.
Splendid.
And talking about building terrain, you recently, Magnus, you put up a video showing off the hotel building that you built that we played on Dust Nordic tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. true. I made a very quick video actually, and I skipped quite a few parts because I wanted to, keep it like I don't remember. It was something like 5 or 6 minutes or whatever. Of course, it took a lot longer to make that building, but I wanted to show that it's quite possible to do nice things without too much hassle. I mean, I use the Dust Tenement kits. Those can actually be a bit difficult to find these days, I suppose. But still, a lot of people have them probably just laying around, and just add some details, add some foam board, do a few extra things.
And I think that's the main point, is that things don't have to be that difficult. Even if things look kind of complex and daunting, it's mostly easier than it looks to make it look good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this time I went a little bit overboard, maybe doing a lot of details like wallpapers and stuff, but you don't have to do that. You can keep it fairly easy. Just add some details, whatever pops into your mind.
Yeah, I'm glad you made this simple model just for us to enjoy on the Nordic or something.
I'm happy if you liked it.
Oh yeah, we all loved it, and all the lightings you have on, so it's a beautiful work of art. But you also have a point, of course, not degrading it, that it just putting wallpapers. It's not that complicated cutting wallpapers and gluing it on the inside of your building. But the effect is huge, and it's a very great thing to think of. I don't know anyone else I've seen who've done it before. So it's a great thing from you to do. But in just cutting and gluing, even I can do it. I mean, so if you understand what I'm getting at.
All the individual parts in that project are not very difficult. Sure, it takes a lot of time to do it. You have to wait for all the glue and paint, whatever, to settle. So the total time is quite a lot. But each part of it is not difficult to make.
And that doesn't mean that everyone has to have that kind of level of ambition either. Just to get started, if you haven't built any buildings beforehand, it's a very good idea to just start with one of these tenement buildings. Just put some paint on it. Glue them together so they stick together in the way you want it, and put some paint on it. Mm-hmm. And that's gonna make it look a lot better just from doing that. Mm-hmm. And that should not need to take very much effort or very much time.
No, and I don't want to be sounding like one of those who I don't know, look down at people who don't paint their armies and stuff like that. Because I know in some communities they're like, oh, if you don't paint your army, you can't play here, and you have to do this and that and all that. You should play the game like you want it. If you want to play 2D, you want to play with non-painted armies, you do that as long as you enjoy it and have a good time. My frustration, when it comes to frustration, is when I see players who make a lot of effort on their units and their walkers and all that, and they put, as I see it, none on their gaming board. That's the I don't get that the equivalence there. I mean, just if you place that much effort on your units and you place it against a cardboard piece of gray 2D terrain, why the fuck did you spend all that time on your figures? That's only the time when I get frustrated. If you don't do shit on your miniatures, then I'm totally fine that you don't do shit on your gaming table as well. To me, that's just logical. I mean, you want to just put it out there and just play it, and then put it away, perhaps have it in a plastic bag because you don't care that much if it gets dented or something. It's the fun of the experience. And that's okay to me.
There are a lot of reasons for why that's the case. And I think one of the biggest reasons actually is like knowledge. Basically, you know how to paint your miniatures. That's not very complicated. But how do you make a building? Where do you start? What tools do you need? What materials do you need?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very good point. And I think that's why you should usually start with something that gives you a base, like the tenement buildings.
Yeah.
Like HDF or MDF building kits that you just glue together, and then you have something. Mm-hmm. And then you can go from there. But if you go to the next step, if you want to build stuff from scratch, do you have any kind of tips or tricks how to do that?
Well, I always start to make some kind of plan. Basically, what do I want? I check some measurements to make some kind of rough plan at least. Of course, it's going to change during the project because it never turns out exactly the way you thought about it before. But just start with something simple. And I actually started with the next project now. It's going to be combination of small scratch built building and some MDF kit that I'm going to like combine together to make hopefully a nice piece out of it. And I will take some photos of it. I'm not sure if it's going to be a video or just posting photos. But anyway, I'm going to show a little bit how I would do this project. Like the base part, the part that I'm scratch building is very easy. It's not going to be very difficult. And by itself probably won't look that impressive. But when combined with these cool MDF details, I think it's going to look really nice.
Cool.
Good. Interesting.
Yes, hopefully. So, I don't know what to say else. You have to kind of experiment. Like, start with something simple and build your way up. There are a lot of tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. I mentioned this last time, I really like the foam board stuff. You can do so many things with that. Plastic card is also really nice. You can buy them in packs of different thicknesses.
I know something you've done. You've to create structure or texture. I mean, on the outside of the buildings, you use a little mix there.
Yeah, it's. I think I read it somewhere. I can't really remember now, but I got the tip somewhere. I use like ordinary spackle that you use for, I don't know, spackling walls or floors or whatever in your home. And I mix that with normal white glue. Roughly, I don't know, maybe not 50-50, but most like 70% spackle and 30% wood glue or something like that.
Oh.
I don't really measure it, I just do it by
by feel.
Yeah, exactly. Mix it together and use a slightly bigger brush also for like painting walls. The exact size depends on what you're doing. And then I put this on. I apply it with this brush and let it settle for a few minutes, not wait until it's completely dry. And then I go over it like a second time. I don't know how to explain this technique, but basically you want to get rid of all the brush strokes that you leave. So you kind of just dot it over with the brush, the very tip of it. Yeah, stippling basically with the end of the brush to get rid of all those brush strokes and leave it a rough texture. And just wait for it to settle then, and it makes a really nice concrete surface, and also protects, of course, because you have the glue in it, so
it hardens it.
Yeah, I mean, spackle can crack if you dent the piece or but by mixing the glue into it, it gets a lot more
soft.
Yeah, like exactly. It kind of how glue works. So by mixing them together.
That's very interesting. I think I'm gonna try that technique. I'm wondering how to paint my Thor miniatures, the Arabian style houses, and I'm thinking of just kind of getting a nice wall texture on there. I think I'm gonna try that technique on that.
And then you want to perhaps even go to 3 or 4 times with the brush, because you want. To me at least, it's the sand who sticks on the building, and you get more of a. You should perhaps have more texture there even than on the regular.
Yeah, maybe I think
my prejudice, but I think
what you have to be careful when doing this spackle glue mix stippling thing. You don't want to apply too much of it. It shouldn't be a thick layer. It should be just enough to make you get that surface to get that concrete look, because I mean, if you put too little on it, you will not really get the correct looking surface, and you will see that, no problem. But if you put too much on it, it's gonna by itself like smoothen out, so you won't get nice surface as well. So that is basically the tricky part, I would say, to get thick enough but not too thick. And you have to kind of experiment a little bit. If you're unsure, if you're doing this the first time, just put some on a spare part. Just mix tiny amount and try it out and see what happens before you put it on your actual building.
Very good.
Just to say something more here, just because I love my own voice or something. Now, I also think that there's never an exact thing with buildings or anything in nature. There's no smooth surfaces. There's always little, what do you call it? Imperfections, yeah. So if you really want the board to look good, don't be too worried that it's just totally straight, totally exact. A little mismatch on the coloring or something just adds to the realism.
That's also one of the things that I usually recommend. The perfect looking terrain is not perfect. Because if it's perfect, it will look like a dollhouse or something, whatever.
Yeah.
It will look
cartoony,
not realistic. And especially in a game like Dust, where everything is supposed to be a bit dark and gritty, and you don't want that new shiny look on it.
Definitely not.
And I've seen. I'm just getting started with the whole terrain building stuff, so I'm taking quite a lot of inspiration from what you two guys are doing, because you build quite a lot, and we've seen quite a few of those things now at Dust Nordic. So just trying to get a nice kind of transition here and talk about the tournament that we had over Easter weekend.
Yeah,
I think first off to say it was for me a really big success. It was really, really fun, even if it was quite a lot of work, holding and running everything and getting everything in perfect order, basically.
Yeah, I hope people had a good time. I mean, that should always be the aim of it, anyways. Doesn't really matter how you do things. If people are not having fun, it's gonna fail.
Absolutely. And I think we achieved that. It seemed like there were 2 days. There were quite a lot of matches. It was quite intensive, but people were in a very, very good mood the entire time, I think. And I think we've learned a few things. So for those of you listening who interesting to attend next year, we probably won't be holding it on Easter weekend.
Yeah.
For several reasons, and I think one is that we want to accommodate more international players, and we kind of a very secularized country, Sweden. We don't really celebrate Easter in the same way as many others do in Europe, so we didn't really take that into account when planning it, unfortunately.
And also, GothCon is like an institution in itself. So when you're brought up as a kid, you are taught that on Easter you go to GothCon, at least if you have anything with gaming to do, and so it doesn't matter how fanatic you are. I know there are some Christian variants of GothCon. I know a few people go away and have their own role-playing Easter and board gaming Easter religious happenings also, just because they can't go to GothCon. But I mean, 99% I would say GothCon is much more important than anything else. If you're into gaming.
It's sort of a tradition in the Swedish gaming community. It's been going on for something like 41 years.
Yeah, it was the 41st consecutive year running. So they every year since 1977.
Yeah.
So it's an institution.
And it's a really good gaming convention, and from the Dust perspective, I would say it's also a good place to show off the game and maybe get new players.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like during the Nordic event now, this Easter, we also ran a lot of demo games. So getting a lot of interests. So that's nice.
I think a few new players from that.
Yeah,
as
definitely.
well.
We've had some players already signing up on our Swedish website. So yeah, that's good.
Talking about us Swedes more for a moment, we also have another tournament coming up, the Swedish Masters at Lincoln.
Yeah.
That's Ludde holding that.
Yes, it's going to be on the 27th of May, Saturday there. We're going to have Swedish Masters.
It's the grid version.
The grid version, yeah. I know, to my knowledge, a few other in our community who's placed in vicinity of Linköping will be holding the non-gridded on the day before. I haven't had the possibility or the time, I could say, the energy to engage myself in that one at all. So I hope they have everything under control. I'm looking forward to playing in that tournament and hosting the gridded one on the Saturday. Still working out some quirks on how to hold that tournament. I want to do a mini version of what was done at Nordic when you play a few games and then are seeded into two groups, because I like to I want to create the feeling that you can have a whole day of important games and fun games, and if you have a bad draw in the first couple of games and you meet some of the really good players, I don't want your tournament, so to speak, to be over. I want you to be able to have some competitiveness if you're just not there right now to compete with the big shots or if you want, I don't know how you should call it, but and I also like to make some special I want to treat last year's winner as a little bit special, so he should have some
so basically it's going to be some kind of the plan is to
have some
run
qualification.
some qualifier rounds and then some kind of finals.
Yeah.
Anyways, right.
And even if you don't get to the finals, it will be important for you because you will fight for the Bleutkreuz final, not the B final. It's the Bleutkreuz final, of course. I'm trying to be
everyone will
humoristic.
be fighting for the Bleutkreuz.
Yeah, everyone is fighting for it.
nice.
That's like it's the meat grinder for those guys. But even those, they will fight for an honor or a prize or something, a trophy. So even if you don't make it to the final, you can still have some games then on the afternoon, evening that could be important if you want them to be important, or otherwise you just game them and just have fun. As long as you get a lot of good games and have a fun time playing. The things I should say I've already said, and we're gonna have special boards as always, and I will try to do something fun with all the boards that we have there. So expect the unexpected on the boards, and also they're going to be a limited amount of places. So in just a few days, hopefully, when this airs, it's already stated on the web page. You have to be on the Vikings web page to register. Of course, you have to register for just participating in Lincoln, and you have to pay to Lincoln because otherwise you can't go to the convention. But if you want to play in this tournament, you have to register on the Viking page. Otherwise, you're not in the tournament. And it's going to be a limited amount of places. So as soon as you hear this, check out the Viking homepage and make sure you're one of those few places. Sorry.
Right. And this is 100 points tournament?
Yeah, we for several reasons we can't go to 125. I don't think this time around. I would have loved to do this, but it's also about transporting stuff from Gothenburg to Linköping for the gaming tables and trying to have as many games. So it just gets complicated. We have to do 100 points, even if it would be nice to have done 125 before Poland. But yeah.
We'll try that some other time.
Yeah.
100 points, and otherwise it's a normal tournament, or is it going to be like one list, two lists?
Oh, you can have two lists, but I'm of the opinion that you need to play both of your lists in both of the phases of the tournament. I mean, at Nordic we just played one list, even though we had two different days and two. But I think that gives a little bit too much of an advantage to the two list players and makes it possible to make the combos that could give you a little bit more than an edge than I want it to be. So I am one of those. I would like to restrict that a little bit. I love the two army lists. I think it's a good thing. But so I think,
quick note there is
yeah,
that the top 3 players on Nordic
only had one list.
only had one list.
I know.
So
we should actually talk about that just a short while, about the 3 winning players and their lists at Dust Nordic. We kind of skipped over that, but I think it's worth talking about.
I'm surprised we didn't say more about the Nordic than you did. You were just so short with it. But please, I'm interrupting.
I think we're all a little bit tired. So we're forgetting things. But it was very interesting to see the results. I mean, the winner of the tournament was Maurits Ryding, which is one of our top players. He's won several tournaments before.
He's been around for ages. One of the first I demoed for at GothCon for I don't know how many decades ago. Yeah, and one who's always. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting again. One of my days apparently. He was the one that made me aware that we had 2 more coffin boxes left in Sweden. So he made me buy one of them, and he bought the other one. So I'm forever indebted to Maurits, and of course sharing almost the same name as having his. First name as my last name. It makes it even better for me, of course. So, but I'm very happy for Maurits that he won the honors. Yeah, he's a very good player. Tactic.
Yeah, and Maurits won the tournament, and he ran kind of by now classic Endak list, I would say, with Christoph Platoon and Tina and Hiena in the army as well, and then quite a lot of infantry units. I would say I'm looking at the list right now actually, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units plus observer squad, so 7 infantry units in total.
But most important, he has 2 Ludwig in one of the lists.
Yes.
Yeah.
In his only list.
Yeah. So in his only list. I'm sorry. Yeah. So.
But I think what's caught most of us by surprise is the second place winner.
Yes.
Joachim Ekström.
Yes, that was kind of surprise actually. Well, he's a fairly new player, so that's really well played by a new player.
I played 2 games altogether, I think, before the tournament.
Yeah, something like that. So, but also his list is kind of.
It's an allied list, first off.
It's kind of unconventional, allied and.
Well, I won't say unconventional because it's very conventional. It might be too conventional.
Yeah, good point.
But that's just so great. No platoons, no fraction bonuses, allies.
Yeah,
he's seconds away from winning the whole tournament.
Yeah.
To me, it just proves the greatness of the game.
Yeah. I think most of us were just unprepared. We haven't played against an allied list like this in a long time, so we didn't really know how to handle it. And plus the fact that we kind of have a kind of new player, I wouldn't say luck, because I don't think that's basically the thing, but it's kind of a new player bias. New players tend to do well against us, and I think that's mostly
before.
And I think it's mostly because they come in with fresh ideas, fresh ways to see the game, new angles,
thinking
and we're
out
not.
of the box.
And that forces us, who kind of have a tendency somewhat to get stuck in our way of thinking, to, just experience new things. I think that's great. I think that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, we're so stuck. We talked about this before the podcast, that we think in our old ways of how a unit is used and what unit is working and what not and stuff. And new people, they come into this, they have a fresh look at it. Because we also had the thing with Jonathan when his SSU army we built for 99 points. And I was also that had a few powerful units in it. Of course it had. no fraction bonus, no platoons, still kicked our asses. Yeah, it's so great that it happens.
Yeah, it's nice. Nice to get those kinds of surprises.
Definitely.
Yeah. And the all-frightening SSU were only on 3rd place in this tournament. And he still also had only one list, only block, and no... Was it any fraction? Any bonuses? Anything at all?
Well, it was a block list. So it was a 110, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
faction
so-
bonus 108, and actually the allied list was also with faction bonus.
It was?
It's
Yeah,
a block.
all rangers. So both,
Oh, yeah, sorry, I take that back then. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so both of those lists are 108 points exactly.
Okay, then.
But yeah, the all-frightening SSU, as you said, only placed 3rd, but still 4 out of the 5 players playing SSU went to the finals.
Yeah, but how many of the all-together players were playing SSU? It was like
And
five.
And then sure, how many
yeah.
players were playing Allied?
1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Allied must be the big threat now.
Yeah.
Allied is the super list. Everyone should play Allies. Hear that for Poland, everyone? Just sell your Endag, sell your SSU Spetsnaz. Buy Allied. It's the only thing that works. Allied Infantry 2. Okay?
Well, he mostly used Infantry 3.
I'm trying something here, okay? Please.
All right. Speaking about Poland, what we're talking about is the European Championship that's coming up 17th and 18th of June. And there's a lot of stuff to look forward to here, I think. First off, the scenarios have been released now, so everyone can go and try them, play them, see how they work, trying to fit your armies together in this. And 2 things that's special about this. First off, the point limit. It's not 100-point armies that we've all been accustomed to. It's 125. And that's exciting because just that fact alone makes it possible to use different combinations. It forces you to think differently. It forces you to do math in a way that you might not have thought about easier. I mean, how many points do I get for the faction bonus in 125? So 12 and a half.
Yeah.
So
that half point is frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to learn to play the Germans and then trying to play them at a different point level. I'm totally at a loss. I don't know what I will be playing down there.
Yeah, but it's. I think it's really good to shake it up. We are kind of in the middle of preparing for future tournaments, thinking of different formats and scenarios and everything. And this is very interesting. So I'm gonna love to see how things shake out in Poland. I will not be able to go there myself, but it's going to be really interesting to see how this works. And just changing the points level, it's a kind of small or easy change, but it could really shake things up.
And that's just one of the changes they've made at this tournament, because the other one is that instead of the normal 9x12 with the 2 mats, they're going to play on 9x18, which is 3 mats together with the long side together.
Yeah.
And that's also going to shake things up a lot.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be extremely exciting.
And also it's 10 turns, and I think you can grab victory points on the first turn. Isn't it like that?
Yeah, something like that.
So it's I'm a little bit worried perhaps about the 10 turns victory points on one turn or second turn, because it could make very big swings. Yeah, just for one game. You have an off game, and you can be either very high up or very far down in the ranks. And I haven't seen anything, but I'm suspecting that they're going to do quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals on the second day, or perhaps just the semifinals and finals. Perhaps now it says that in the new tournament document that Oliver posted. I guess they're going to go like that. But those semifinals, of course, have to be 125 points as well then, and on 3 mats, and the finals.
It's going to be exciting to see.
And there's also going to be a painting competition. That's kind of a tradition for them as well. How it's kind of laid out this time, they're going to be 3 judged categories. So they're going to have special judges that is going to excuse us, this Sunday.
The church bells are getting longer. If I only had some kind of missile. If you heard that one from
I can recognize that. 3 judge categories. It's going to be best painted hero, best painted infantry unit, and best painted vehicle. And so that's something that you can try to accomplish. There's also going to be 1 general vote category where everyone involved, all the players can vote on their best painted army. So that's everyone involved in the tournament is automatically entered, I guess, and everyone has a vote on whose army in total is the best painted.
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunities here to show off your painting skills if you want to.
That's great.
And we are going to talk about, of course, the tournaments that we are organizing and tournaments that we are going to and the ones that we hear about on the Facebook and so on. But if you listeners have any tournaments that you want us to take a look at and talk about in the podcast, feel free to contact us. We're definitely interested in spreading the word about your stuff and your tournaments as well. Absolutely. Everything to kind of promote the playing of the game, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. It's very true, very true. If you have a gaming group in Sweden, perhaps, if you're listening to this and they don't play Dust, perhaps we can come demo for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have all the stuff might be needed for it. So, And with that said, I think that is it for today. So I have to thank you two guys so very much for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you, all fine listeners, for joining us and listening with us, and hope to hear you soon in the next podcast. And until then, we'll see you on the battlefield. All music used in this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. If you want to get in contact with me and this podcast, you can email dustwarjournals@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at dustwarjournals.